Well, look, we've been assessing on a daily basis the time at which we would secure a successful outcome on a vote of no confidence, because what we want to achieve is an outcome rather than it just being a little bit of parliamentary drama, theatrics, if you like. Now, what we've seen over the last week or so has been an absolute shambles. We were supposed to have a vote on the Prime Minister's deal last week. It was pulled at the 11th hour because she knew that she didn't have the support within Parliament. That said, she'd known for over 2 weeks that she didn't have support within Parliament for that deal, and rather than try to renegotiate or reach out to members across the House as to what steps could be taken next to make that a deal around which there could be a parliamentary consensus, she dug her heels in and left it right up until the 11th hour before she took action. Now, the problem that we've got within Parliament is because it didn't get discussed within Parliament, Theresa May was in the dark, essentially, as to what the different problems and concerns that various parliamentarians had about the deal. So she went off to the European Union to seemingly seek assurances, which she wasn't entirely sure what she was seeking assurances on. She knew that the backstop was a problem, but she hadn't even entertained any of the other issues that many of us across the House have had with the deal. The fact that it doesn't provide a strong direction in terms of our continuing single market relationship, the fact that it didn't deal with security issues, the fact that it really didn't keep up with European Union standards on consumer rights, protections, environmental standards, for example. So we really are in quite a precarious position at the moment. And what we're doing, certainly from the Labour Party's perspective, is pushing the Prime Minister to bring that deal to Parliament next week so that we can have that discussion.
At the beginning of the answer, you said that you didn't want to have the confidence vote in the government until you were sure what the outcome would be. But you don't just get one shot at it. You can have a go and then, have another go after Christmas, for example, if it doesn't work out. So I just don't really understand why you wouldn't seize the momentum that the opposition has at the minute against Theresa May and run with it. I mean, if you were being cynical, you might suggest that actually Labour doesn't really want to take over the Brexit negotiations because it's far more easy criticising from the comfort of opposition.
Well, I don't think it would be sensible or pragmatic to hold a vote of no confidence every single day within Parliament, knowing that we were going to lose that vote of no confidence. I think there's a lot more that needs to be done within Parliament. The government's taken its eye off the ball on domestic policy, for example. We're supposed to have the NHS 10-year plan, and we've heard very little. We're supposed to have the response to the Taylor Review on employment rights and practices, and we've heard nothing about that. There's various different domestic policy matters that need to be dealt with urgently, and we don't want to take up parliamentary time unnecessarily, but what we are doing, as I say, is speaking to various parties across the House and assessing the time at which there would be a successful outcome on a vote of no confidence. But what we want to see straight away this week is a debate on Theresa May's deal and the opportunity for members across the House to put forward their concerns so that we can reach a consensus, because I believe that there is a deal that Parliament can coalesce around. I believe that the Labour Party has set out its negotiating principles, a strong customs union deal with a right for Britain to have a say in future trade deals, a strong single market deal, a floor under existing rights and protections and environmental standards and workers' rights, but not only that, a guarantee that we will go beyond the minimum floor that the European Union has set. And we think that there would be support within Parliament for that, but we're not being given the opportunity to put those options on the table at this time.
One thing that many MPs believe that there would be support in Parliament for is a second referendum. I know that Labour have conflicting opinions, shall we say, about whether that's the best way forward. What do you personally think? Would you like to see a second referendum?
Well, Labour policy is not conflicting. We've been very clear that we want to secure a deal that puts our economy and our communities first. In the event that Theresa May's deal... Well, I'll just set out what the Labour Party position is first. So, in terms of our party position, we had a fantastic discussion about this at conference, and we set out that if Theresa May couldn't pass her deal within Parliament, she refused to renegotiate, she refused to call a general election, then all options would be on the table to avoid a no-deal situation, and that would include a public vote as well. But that's not put in any particular hierarchy. We would assess that in line with any other options that are on the table at that time. In terms of my own personal position, I think we need to respect the referendum. As I say, I think that there is a deal that can be struck within Parliament that brings everybody together, that respects the views and wishes of communities, whether they voted leave or remain. And I think as MPs across the House, we have to do everything within our power to secure that. Now, In an extreme situation, if that is not possible, I share the position that our party has set out, that we have to keep all options on the table and that we wouldn't rule out a people's vote at some point.
I mean, you must have looked at some of the polling numbers. I know your constituency is pretty divided, really, when it comes to Brexit. Do you think that having a second referendum as party policy would help or hinder Labour's chances at a general election?
Well, it's not about whether it will help or hinder the Labour Party. This is what, is doing the right thing, essentially. And, we had a referendum. People spoke quite, vociferously and passionately about, leave and remain. And we've got to respect those views and concerns. And as parliamentarians, we have got to do everything within our power to secure a deal that doesn't leave us in a worse economic position, but also respects the result of that referendum. Now, in the event we can't secure that, we have to examine other options, but I don't think we're at that point yet. We've seen a complete shambles in the way that the government has dealt with negotiations over the last 2 years. Red lines that they've set out that the European Union, I think, are quite simply preposterous. Even Theresa May went to Europe this week stating that she wanted help and she wanted to seek assurances, but I think, as I said earlier, they weren't even sure what she was seeking assurances on. So, we really do need to see more work and more collaboration across Parliament. And I really do worry that if we don't see that deal being discussed within Parliament this week and being voted upon, then we really are, working against the clock.
You were talking there about Theresa May's reception in Brussels. I'm interested to get your thoughts about the actions of the President of the EU Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker. You must have seen that video of him, tussling that woman's hair in a rather bizarre manner. He was then forced to deny calling Theresa May nebulous. He then said it was all OK because she was kissing him afterwards. Do you think that he would have treated her in that way if she was a man?
Well, I don't think, dealing with people in that way or being nasty, is part of negotiations. And I'm not saying that that's occurred, but, it as a general principle is right, whether you're a man or a woman. And I wouldn't like to hazard, any kind of presumptions that, he's done that because Theresa May is a woman. If he has, then that's absolutely diabolical. But, I think we treat, our negotiating partners with respect, and I think when you do that, then you end up with a good outcome to those negotiations. We've not seen that in negotiations so far. We had the Prime Minister standing on the steps of Downing Street threatening a few months ago, stating that Britain was preparing for no deal, trying to push the European Union into a position. And that's not to say that the European Union have been exemplary in their negotiations either. And I think what we do need to see is everybody behaving a little bit more calmly and negotiating with respect.